it's episode 50 if we can.
No, yeah.
Because the next week Scott and I are out of town.
Doing what?
San Diego for a podcast convention.
Bullshit.
Yep.
I must not have gotten my invitation.
Yeah, I was gonna invite you, but I felt like you probably weren't gonna go.
I may not have ever been to San Diego.
Have you been to San Diego?
No.
Oh, we'll go back.
I've been to Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's not as nice.
No. Sure it's not. Went down to
Why it's so
Venice
cold
Beach.
today?
It's cold outside.
It is.
Yeah,
you know it's
look,
cold when he's wearing pants.
Yeah, today, man, I couldn't even believe it. When I was at the Kroger earlier, there was a cop out there writing tickets for people parked in the handicap parking. I was like, I wanted to tell him, hell yeah. But then when I started driving down here, there were cops everywhere. It's like, wow, they must have they must have trying to get their quotas early or something like that. I was like, wow.
Starting the month.
Yeah.
Are we going? Are you going?
I love it. I hate people when they park in the handicap spots and have really no reason to, just letting somebody stand there and run while you run in and get something. Shit, I had to walk 8 car spaces. Get out of your damn car.
Here we go.
Oh.
My hands are too cold to snap very well.
That was crazy.
Oh, you gotta do the snaps, not me.
Yeah.
You ready?
Hey, man, are you left-handed?
No, I snap better with my left, though.
Oh.
I don't know why that
maybe
is.
we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had it.
My right's kind of like...
All right, well, welcome
bumpy.
back. Welcome back to...
Welcome to the Fireside. Welcome to the Fireside.
Education.
Tattoo people gonna blow your mind.
With artistry. Is that what
good.
you want? Is that what you want?
Hey, welcome to episode 49 of Fireside Tats.
Oh my God.
My name is Jake Meeks, and this is David Evans.
Welcome back. Thank you.
We are your hosts.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. What's been going on? We watched the Super Bowl last night. We always talk about things that are real
do.
timely, and then the
Real
show
timely.
comes out a month later, and people are just like...
It was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Watched...
What's that heartbreaker last night?
Yeah,
Sure,
I had no dog in that fight. I, didn't care. I was just glad it was a good game.
I just hate Belichick. I think he's the devil.
Yeah,
He's
were
like
there
the
any good
Antichrist walking around.
Were there any good commercials?
human form.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to commercials.
Yeah, they were
There
all
were
right.
some sad commercials.
That one sad one though, with the kid that I didn't grow up. I could have grown up.
Yeah,
to be,
yeah. I saw
was-
that one on the
was a
Today
record.
Show this morning, but I didn't see it last
people
night.
were all freaked out. They didn't want to see that. They didn't want to be reminded that children die.
I did like the Snickers one with Machete.
That was good.
And Steve Buscemi.
Oh man, that was good.
I like that. That was the best one that I saw.
Can't beat the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. And there was a little part in it where Marcia actually took a bite of the Snickers, or had the Snickers in her hand, and said she felt better. They did a good job with that too. Yeah, I liked that one. I can't think of any other ones that really stood out to me though. I thought I heard a lot of people talking about the Viagra one, but I didn't think that was very funny. Where the Viagra fell into the...
It's the Fiat Viagra
or
commercial.
whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't a Viagra commercial.
Yeah,
it just
Fiat
was
commercial, yeah.
The Fiat on boner pills.
Yeah.
That
wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's all right.
I didn't care a lot about
there you
that.
go. See, the Italians need that kind of shit.
I guess so. I did like the old guy at the beginning of it, looking
like
back
that?
at the woman,
Hey, well, it's good to see that, there's still a little life in the old folks.
the old folks. So go to firesidetats.com and subscribe to our mailing
Super
list.
Bowl,
vote for your favorite Super Bowl ad.
That's done.
And follow us on everything: Facebook, Instagram. Just Google
like
Fireside
us,
Tats.
2
Like
thumbs
us.
up. Don't forget the tweets.
Don't forget to tweet us.
Thanks for the photos on Reddit.
Yeah. Are we on Reddit?
No, I don't know.
David's on Reddit.
Yeah, David's on Reddit. I don't think I am. We're going to talk today about tattoos, like we always do.
Yeah.
And
What are we gonna talk about?
Well, I got a question from someone about what's the term I'm looking for? Freehand tattooing. On Instagram nowadays, you see a lot of people putting out their marker sketches and about to go down, and it's all their sketches on literally on the person, and it's almost like bragging rights that you can freehand, that you can draw directly on. And so someone sent a question why would you ever do that? What is there really an advantage to drawing directly on skin, or should you try to stencil everything that you can stencil? And I thought, well, that's a good episode.
That's a good question too.
Yeah. So, if just to introduce everyone, traditionally we will make a drawing and make a clean line version of that drawing and make a stencil from that, like a carbon stencil from that, and stick it to the person and use it as a template to trace.
Use a carbon thermofax stencil. It's in purple, gives you a good idea of where it's going to be, what it looks like, size, dimension, line,
Yeah, all that stuff. So what's becoming more and more popular these days is people drawing directly on skin.
There's markers out.
Getting their markers out and just drawing directly on skin. So, that obviously requires a lot of trust from the person getting the tattoo.
Yeah, absolutely.
It requires a good bit of confidence from the person that has X amount of hours marked out to do this tattoo, and they have to be confident that they can put together a drawing that they're satisfied with and get that drawing
just
tattooed time-wise.
Yeah.
It's challenging. It's now. I don't really know where to start. Is there ever a good reason to do it? I would say yes. I do it fairly regularly.
When would you do it? When are you comfortable doing it? Maybe at some point. No one really starts off doing freehand work.
No,
you shouldn't. Anyway,
you shouldn't.
You get used to doing freehand work, and maybe then you're also. It usually requires a certain circumstance. Not everyone likes to do all freehand work, and even if you do freehand work, usually most people like to put a little bit of a stencil on. Depending on the size of the tattoo. I think that probably has something to do with it too. The
and
overall
the type of
size.
Drawing. If it's very symmetrical or very...
Well, if it's tribal and it depends on the biomechanics of the arm and the twist and the turn, and it's very hard to draw some of that stuff on paper when you're trying to do it in 3D. And so if you're trying to work with like a bodyscape and it's supposed to fit that bodyscape and really kind of work with it, I mean, obviously, probably drawing on the skin at that point is an obvious advantage,
especially when it's something organic or like you're saying, a design that can move freely, that isn't really restricted by like having to be representational of something. And
we've definitely seen some biomechanical where it's drawn right on it, and it's mainly using that advantage, the advantage of seeing the overall arm, drawing to the surface, seeing the muscle there and not just on paper. Having to kind of make it up to paper is very hard.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
It is. I mean, it's a little more work, I think, and then what happens probably usually is that the more you put it on paper, the more kind of tiny and ticky it becomes. You start putting a lot more details in it. You forget some of the more like the broad structures. You probably could have obviously used first. I mean, I think that's probably the advantage of doing a lot of the freehand work is that you're able to really lay it out quicker. Well, obviously. Lay it out to the actual space you need instead of like what is a three-dimensional kind of map of it.
And I think no matter what, no matter how great of a job you do at laying out your tracing paper and marking the skin and trying to get a good representation of how it's going to sit and then drawing that on a piece of paper, when you actually place it on skin, it just doesn't always sit exactly the way that you envisioned it. Sometimes something falls out into an armpit early, or you expected it to and it doesn't quite, or this area
if you have a design,
if you used a design, if you had a design and used a stencil, sometimes it's things don't sit the way that you want them to in larger pieces, and then it would be easier to just to draw it and make it sit right there. But
some of that is the nature of actually putting it on by paper, because you're having to wrap and pull paper around objects and onto stuff. Sometimes it just doesn't work as well as maybe drawing it on.
Obviously. Now some people, I don't think it makes sense for, like, I draw on the skin a decent amount. I don't know what percentage of my tattoos are drawn on, but quite a few.
Maybe 20, 30
20, 30%, 40% maybe tops. You very rarely do it, but it's because your drawing style doesn't lend to it that well, because you are you do a lot of ticky things. You're very illustrative and you work a lot of detail into areas, and it would be nearly impossible for you to tattoo the way that you tattoo if you were to just break out Sharpies.
Usually those freehand elements come when I'm actually working at the edges of it design, like actually working to the top of someone's shoulder, or the stop points on maybe a sleeve, or if we're again working around say a real organic place like an elbow, where sometimes just putting a paper something on when you know that you're going to have to do something elemental, and it probably is a little looser and probably a little easier to do it freehand. But usually, like I said, that's at the edges. I don't often make my largest design a freehand image and then have a stencil for the background. Usually it's the other way around. I may have the stencil for the object and then may do some of the looser styled elemental, the edges, like I said before,
draw
probably
those to
freehand.
fall
But
out.
I have to admit, I don't really like to do freehand work, and if it is, it's usually just to clean up something that I'm already putting on as a stencil.
Someone.
That's true.
The person asked if it was. Well, I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding that it makes for like a more competent artist if they're drawing things directly on skin, and that it's not really the case at all. If you can make a better tattoo by drawing it and laying a stencil, you should do that. If you can make a better tattoo by drawing it directly on, you should do that. I don't think that freehand artists, going back to this question or the way that it was put, I don't think that freehand artists or people that do freehand work are superior artists or better tattooers than people that stencil 100% of their work. It just is whatever works better.
It's a different way of
for
working.
You. Yeah.
And often you'll find it's usually in I'd say smaller tattoos usually. Usually the bigger the tattoo gets, the more, even then they want more of a stencil. It's harder to draw something for hours and then really not be able to get into it. We've seen that happen before too. But
at conventions and things, watch people draw for hours on end, and then here it is 2 hours before closing of the convention, and they haven't started lining it yet. And you're just like, what are you going to do? Just hope it's there tomorrow? I guess that's what they do. It's like, well, I hope they sleep easy tonight.
And that's usually, that comes with a time element. Like when there's just not another way of probably doing it, especially if you've never met the individual, if you can't like get a copy of like what their arm look, wherever that item is. And then again, sometimes it really helps for some people to actually meet the person, get an idea of what they really want, and then like I said, if they're really comfortable with their own style, and that's usually come with like, we're saying, I would think like 5-7 years, you get into your own style. You know that even if you drew something on there, that you can make it work. And then usually you can really just attack it at that point. If you're comfortable with your style of drawing, drawing on the skin at that point, I think is very easy.
Yeah, I think that's
you don't want to always do it, but some people, I've seen Joe Capabianca, he'll just grab a couple pens out. Boom.
He draws the same kind of style. That
usually
he's
drawing
very
to a certain
competent.
size. If you're doing just a hand, I mean, who hasn't probably knocked out a 4x5 sketch and it really not take that long, and just with a couple of minutes of going back in and picking and choosing where you want some of the hard objects, you get a good idea of what kind of space management you're really getting into. I think that's probably half of it.
And that's very trusting clientele, and they come to people like Joe for, they want a tattoo that looks like the way he tattoos. So he could make that whatever really he wanted, and it's going to look stylistically like the women that he draws, and people are going to be happy with it. So I think that's a really important thing that I kind of overlooked. If you're really competent and known for a style, and you're very comfortable in that style, if you draw, if you do gray wash, like black and gray skulls with like gnarly stuff in them really well, you can probably sketch out the rough outline of a skull and then build all that texture and crazy stuff right into it, and
absolutely,
and have no trouble at all.
And that's what usually, if you trust the artist enough, and that's why you're getting the work from them, of course, I think that makes it even. I guess the attraction is that when you are getting it hand drawn on, you also know that you're getting a purely original image. While something on paper could be, you're getting it from sometimes amalgams that people are looking at, or maybe something that you've shown them, or something like that. They're making kind of this thing for you. But when they're drawing it straight on, you have a good idea that there's no other resource material around except whatever, and usually it's right out of their head. So you get a good idea that this could be a very it's like a singular thing for you, could be very custom. I think that's why some people like to see it. They know that it's very rare that you would you could be able to do something exactly like that on anyone else too.
Right. Yeah. That's
it's very
that's
custom.
true too. It's very custom. So when is someone ready to try something like that? At what point should someone feel confident enough to sit down and draw directly on skin and not feel like they have to have a stencil to work from?
That is a good question.
That's
I think before, like I said, I think if you've been tattooing for at least 5-7 years and you're fairly comfortable with your equipment, you're fairly comfortable with what you're trying to put out, and you're comfortable with the idea that the customer has. It's one of those, if this is not up your alley and you're doing something definitely out of your realm, you shouldn't be doing it freehand. You should absolutely be putting it on paper. I think that way you're more comfortable with it. But if it's right up your alley and you do that every day, like if somebody, of course, came in and was like, hey, I want a skull on my hand, I would hesitate to probably draw that right on. It's not a little bit of an angle here, play with some custom stuff around it, frame the element to the space. Easily, I could draw a skull probably in my sleep. But if it were something that's like, oh, I want a twin V8 engine with with pistons flaming and headers going, I would have to see some stuff. I just couldn't pull that out of my head probably, and I think that's when you're a little behooved to put it down on paper.
So if it's imagery that you're confident you can draw and draw it correctly out of your head, or even with very little reference and right off the bat, I think that you really need to be confident enough in your technical ability to work from rough lines, because even a clean. Whenever I draw on skin, even my finished clean line drawing on skin is still very sloppy as opposed to when you compare it to a traditional stencil, because it has lighter layers underneath it. I'm working from maybe a baby blue to an orange to a brown, and then going back with a black Sharpie at the very end, or a purple or something. So I have all these layers and a lot of sketchy things in between, and all my points aren't perfectly pointed like they would be if I were to have made a clean line drawing for a stencil. So you really need to be pretty confident in your mark making, I think.
I think, like you said before, it's like if it's an organic, I think. If it's something organic, I think you probably have a lot more. You have the ability to probably do it freehand a little more. The more technical it becomes, that's something you don't want to pull out of your head. I would not try to freehand it. There's so many ways that you could lose even the simple stuff that you draw on that you may want to be a little more hesitant. I think I guess it comes down to the artist. But I would guess it's like if you really are not confident with your machines, if you're not confident that, and if you haven't invested in probably some really nice stuff to draw on people, of course we've got a bank of Sharpies and some
skin scribes kind of things.
So I think if you want to start doing that, what's the nice thing to do is, like, I used to do this a little more, and I still do it with some customers. It's like when they're talking about larger pieces and they just can't see it on there, and I'm trying to get an idea of like how I'm going to put the image on there and give them an idea of where I think they should probably fall in the pattern. That is something that I will do, is I'll draw on them in that first consultation, just to show them that I'm very confident about what I'm seeing or what I'm pulling out and how I should probably approach it. And even in that, even drawing in that session gives them a much better idea of what I'm going to do than just like, here, I'm going to take your half sleeve and you're not going to see it until, a month from now. I can draw on them within 5-10 minutes and show them something very quick. And that, for me, I think helps quite a bit. Is
at least
they see it, I see it, I can write it out, and that they get a better idea in their head, like how confident I am about laying it out on them, where I think it should go, and how much space I really need sometimes.
And that's probably great for people that are looking to, to maybe haven't done their first freehand tattoo yet, or drawn directly on. Do that. Work in markers on someone during a consultation,
and someone that you're
get an idea.
With. Someone that doesn't mind sitting there and you being very reactive for the drawing, because that takes some extra time, obviously. Oh, what's going on?
I don't know. They're acting crazy over there. I used to, when I first started kind of drawing directly on people, the one thing that that kind of bothered me was that I would get a drawing going in a direction and realize I didn't like it, but I'd already worked maybe for 10 or 15 minutes working towards it, and then I was almost hesitant to wipe the entire thing off because I thought it would make them less confident, in me, like, oh, this guy really has no idea what he's doing. But sometimes you work on paper and you get 15 minutes in and you realize
that's exactly what you do.
It's not going the right direction.
And again, it's no slight on you.
Right.
If you take that off and you instantly put it on, that in your head you can still see it. You know where it is. That is for you, like I said, especially when how we lay out stuff very quickly, color pencil usually, and quickly. That's the idea, is to get an idea of the space relationship first, and then do the details afterwards. Lay your major.
Always working from general to specific, getting big shapes down first, and then working into.
And if you're going to be working on this for quite a few hours, 10 minutes is nothing in that.
Right.
I mean, 10, 15 minutes in, you swap your ideas, you change it completely. There is nothing wrong with that. Actually, I was just talking about that same kind of thing to someone the other day, and it was this guy. I don't know if I should remember. His name was Arthur, and he used to come by the shop quite a bit. And he got into like getting kind of collecting tattoo. He was actually gone to Japan and got a tattoo from Horiyoshi 3, and it was this. What do you call like those cobras? It was like this kind of Japanese style cobra. Halfway through the hand drawn on, he actually lines with a machine, but he does all of the color by hand.
Yeah.
And so it's still a very traditional method. But halfway through the tattoo, he doesn't like the head, and so Horiyoshi 3 just gets a pen out and starts drawing on him. He drew the thing on to begin with, so he drew it on. He changes his mind halfway through.
So he's working the body of the snake and then changes his mind.
He's going up to the head. He's gotten halfway through the tattoo. He wipes the head off, draws a new head, and then it's like, well, would you argue with, even if you liked that head, would you argue with him about the new head? Hell no. Of course, you trust him enough. He trusts himself enough, and if he's halfway through a tattoo and he doesn't like something, he wants to change it, you goddamn let him change it. So it's one of those things that's like, he might have drawn it to begin with. It might have been on paper to begin with, but if the artist changes it, you probably wouldn't know if you hadn't seen the original. He knew because he saw it halfway through, but in the end, is it a better tattoo for it? Probably so. And that's like, if your artist changes their mind halfway through, you should just give him that him that lay. You've already trusted them this far. There's probably nothing wrong with taking that, say, 10 or 15 minutes to revise your sketch or restart, get a new, fresh approach to it. Nothing wrong with that.
And even with even stencil tattoos or anything else, I have a habit of trying to photograph. This is a fairly recent habit I've developed, but trying to photograph tattoos in between each sitting. And I started doing it because I would end up so far between sittings that I would start asking myself, I would look at my book and say, oh, I'm working on so-and-so. Where do we even stand on that piece? I don't even know what it looks like. Right. And so I would go back and start looking at it. Well, then I found that really helped me to start making some decisions about what I liked and what I didn't like about the previous sitting. So I would even see how I finished the previous sitting, and I'll go that really needs to be darker right there because I need this to be that, or maybe that's I wonder if I can do anything to cool that down a little bit to maybe I could lay some greens, feather some greens over that just to knock that back just a little, or you know what I mean? And you then you come back into something.
That's the nice thing about bigger pieces is that they are reactive. You are allowed to go back and change tints and review values. There's nothing wrong with that either.
And so if you're someone that's paying hourly for a tattoo and you sit down and the artist starts working back into something they already did, my point being let them do it because it's going to make for a better tattoo. And it's not touch up. It's not, it's making the tattoo better. It's working into it.
We've talked before about especially going through certain sections and basically doing a glazing. You're doing a color in there that is probably going to be reactive to some of the other colors around that. It is absolutely not the last effect that you're going to do into that color. You're going to build it one way or another. And it's hard for you to tell them that, and it's hard for you to see that until you put the rest of the design in there. That's what I think. It's like if you're halfway through a tattoo and you start changing little color tones here and there, it's usually because of the objects that are there around it. It's usually, like I said, it's pulling light or pulling color sources from stuff around it, and you probably didn't see it until you really wanted to see it.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing, again, and some of it is reactive to maybe a person's skin tone, the highlights you're leaving, your overall final like light source. You just never know sometimes how you're going to change stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. This piece that Jeff Ensminger's been working on my torso for the last year,
we're never going to see
that we're never going to see
in person.
It looks essentially finished right now. To look at it, it looks like it's finished, but we have one sitting left.
I hope it is,
and I wish it was. And he said this last sitting will be the longest sitting because I'm going to come back and basically
just beat you
up, just work the entire thing, glaze in different tones, warm this up, cool this down, make this darker, bump this line. And so, I mean, I fully expect even though I really like the tattoo the way that it sits, I fully expect to see a changed tattoo. But
absolutely,
you put the confidence in the person that you chose to do the job, and whatever he makes of it, I'm sure I'll be happy with. But but to look at it, you think about going back and sitting for however many more hours and spending however many more hundreds of dollars, and you go, well, my tattoo looks fine right now. Why would I do that?
Right.
Well, because that artist has a vision for it.
Well, we've definitely had customers that we had a certain vision for, and maybe get halfway through. I'll get pieces that get to the black and gray stage, and they
want to quit.
They want to quit. They
like
just like it. They like it that way. They like the line work. They like seeing a certain, and you may not be happy about it. But that's how it is sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
Trust the person; they'll come back in if they want to get color and something like that. Yep. But again, I guess we're wandering off topic.
Yeah.
If this is your first attempt at drawing on people, I would say first make sure you've done a little bit of work on the side. Why not draw it on paper first? Get you a nice, at least a gray wash version of it, some type of at least positive, something that you can see some color value separation, so that you're at least comfortable with it, and then draw it on.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with doing that either. Just because you're not using it as a stencil, you want it to be organic and work with the space, that's fine. Draw it on paper first and then draw it on the person. That's a great way to show them too, and for you to get a little more familiar and be comfortable with working on a person, still having a reference. Because if you lose a stencil, if you're uncomfortable with losing a stencil or afraid of it, just deathly afraid of it, it could easily happen when you're basically just drawing it on with markers.
Yeah, and be sure that you see an advantage in it. Is there a reason to draw it on by hand? Yeah. Don't do it because, but for the challenge of it, or whatever else. I mean, can you make the tattoo better that way? If you can make a tattoo that you're perfectly happy with a stencil, well then do it. Do it like that. Yeah. It doesn't like I said earlier on. I don't think the better artists are drawing directly on skin. I think that people are trying to make the best tattoo they can, and sometimes it works better to draw to the skin. Sometimes it doesn't.
I just thought of this. It's like, I took graphic design for years, and one of the first things that we learned or talked about in there is like, don't make letters up unless you have taken a lot of calligraphy classes, unless absolutely like lettering is your thing and that you do it and you are just comfortable with doing calligraphy styles and stuff. Don't make that stuff up. Don't draw that stuff. I've seen too many people try to make up their own letter styles and other stuff. This is not a game. Usually the ones that are made up because an artist has never had any no training in it whatsoever. Let me tell you, I went to school with people that's all they wanted to do is do topography the rest of their lives. They're serious about it. Don't make letters up. Use a book, use something, use some type of source, trace it out first. Do not hand draw lettering on unless you are a goddamn letter master.
Yeah. Right. I think that's one of the easiest ways to make a tattoo look amateurish.
Absolutely.
If you want it to look like you have no idea what you're doing, draw some letters when that's not what you're good at, when you don't know what you're doing, because it's just like, it's like painters that you can see every piece of the canvas when they finish their painting, like it's just the lightest wash of a painting. You're like, it looks like a fifth grader did that. Yeah, there's no paint on that canvas. That's lettering. That's drawing lettering into tattoos.
It's horrible. Most things are image based anyway. Why you would need to frame it with some word or phrase or whatever. Pictures do say, whatever, 1,000 words. But if you are not good at it, do not start doing it. Trust in a book.
Tons of fonts out there now.
Exactly. Your computer has more fonts than...
My God, man. Illustrator can bend using those envelope distorts. You can bend a font and make it look like Star Wars coming at you or twisting around in circles. Use that stuff. It's
easy. I think that there is something to be said to, like, if you want to learn how to do it, absolutely get into it. But again, do not draw that stuff on by hand.
Tell you what, the people that are doing it well right now. I don't know his actual name, but on Instagram is Big Mees, MEAS. You look at a few of that guy's hand drawn on lettering.
Get an apprenticeship from him.
Look at that, and then decide whether or not you want to go try to draw on some lettering, because that's your competition. That guy's good at it.
Really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure we've run our mouths for a long time. What time? How long has it been? 30 minutes.
Bullshit. We got 15 more.
15, 20 more.
I think hopefully that'll get you. Like, if you're not comfortable with it, don't start. If you're wanting to get into it, do a little drawing on the side like you would normally do, and then work with that as a reference and do it by drawing it back on, and that hopefully will get you a little more comfortable with it. And then again, pick where some of these things that if it's a full sleeve, I'd probably make sure that's a really organic piece, something that you're really comfortable with drawing.
If you're hand drawing on full sleeves, hopefully you don't even need our
well, that's true. But I think some people, I have seen people that, are especially into, say, biomechanical stuff, and they're really not good at it, and that's the first thing they do. They're trying to work big, and they know that if they hand draw it on, it's going to be big, because I have the same problem. I draw about 10% too big for every drawing I do. I used to copy quite a bit to have to kind of compensate for that, because I just overdraw things. And that can be one of your major problems. If you're just hand drawing and stuff and think that you're just going to, I'm just going to keep working into it, glazing into it, doing it. If you're not good at it, you're not going to be good at it. It's not. Take your time. Get yourself comfortable with your style, what you like to draw, what you're comfortable with putting on people, and then you'll be more comfortable when it comes to that time where you have to do some stuff.
Yeah. I think what you do, drawing the edges, finishing the tattoo out with hand drawing, is a good kind of way to dip your toes in the water and get used to just making marks directly on people, how the markers react, how well they hold up, how well they stay on when you start wiping and stuff like that.
And you're going to find some colors that you really like to see. How do you draw? It's like yellow, and then
I start with yellow, and sometimes I go to yellow.
I draw with some greens first, and then sometimes I'll mark those back down with like kind of a pink or a red, and those kind of stack and almost make that kind of black for me. So I go, start mixing my tones where it hits.
The yellows make such a small mark. They almost confuse your eye. But if you have a decent idea, they'll help you to place things, and then when you draw anything over the top of them, they completely go away. Yeah. So they're almost like temporary, and they just go away so quickly because they're just that the Sharpie yellow is just so light. But yeah, I mean, you'll figure out what you like. Sometimes I go baby blue to brown too. I like that, and then from there to black or whatever.
So that's another. I promise you, once you get into drawing freehand, you're gonna find these. They're not problems, but you're gonna find some ideas of how
challenges.
You can. Yeah.
All right.
But it's fun. It's worth it. Again, if it's not your thing, don't start it. It's
Yeah, don't start it just to do it. I mean, find a reason to do it.
Usually conventions are a good place to do that too, because you don't have the same kind of equipment you have in your own shop. Mm-hmm. You do have machines to make stencils and stuff, but usually it's a lot.
Sometimes it's a hassle to go through that. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. Check us out, firesidetats.com.
Yeah. Any questions? Any follow-ups? Let us know. Any got predictions for next year's Super Bowl? Let us know.
Yeah. Stay tuned to next week. Episode 50.
This is going to be it's going to be a blowout.
I don't even know what we're going to talk about. Oh, I do know what we're talking about. I do.
You do?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing.
I think I do.
It's like you're seeing the future.
Unless you come up with a better idea.
I won't. I've got some ideas, but it's usually about food.
Oh yeah. Buffalo chicken sliders tonight.
Oh yeah, Emily's. Of course, she's still. We've had these before though. Yeah, I've heard you've had some chicken wings in the last couple of days.
My God, 3 nights in a row chicken wings. Friday night we made them at home. Saturday night the fights, the Anderson Silva fight, Buffalo Wild Wings, and then Super Bowl we had wings.
Silva won, of course.
Silva won,
right?
Yeah, he did win.
We're not crushing anybody's.
No, he did win. It was fairly. Everyone's gonna know by the time this is out. It was fairly uneventful. It wasn't a great fight, but it was all right.
Any other big things coming up?
No, we do have a couple of big podcasts coming up. We have We're going to actually time lapse the finishing tattoo, Jeff finishing my tattoo, and then podcast him about the way that he finishes a tattoo. So that should be a really big one.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Yeah.
Hopefully, we've got Russ Abbott coming up talking about his color wheel project.
Every time you see that, I always think of the wrestler.
Russ Abbott?
Like Bud Abbott. You remember
Bud Abbott.
Remember that guy when he had big...
I don't know Bud Abbott. Do you know Bud Abbott?
Oh, no.
Tank Abbott? Tank Abbott.
Oh, Tank.
He was a fighter.
Yeah, fighter.
Yeah, he was a UFC fighter for a while. Yep. No, it was a different Abbott.
All right.
I think Tank Abbott would kick the shit out of Russ Abbott.
Color wheel though. Yeah, that'll be exciting. Yeah, sorry.
Very nice guy. I met Russ at the Austin convention this year,
it's an Eternal. He's doing stuff for Eternal, right?
Yeah. So his color wheel is based on Eternal colors.
We love, by the way.
We use Eternal colors. We use Fusion. And I think one thing I want to talk to him about is like if you don't use those exact colors, just how the color wheel works in general. So and he's put a lot of time and work into this thing. It's really a polished project. It's really going to be and we have one coming. I backed him.
I bought one. You've got one coming.
I backed him on Kickstarter, and I backed him to the point that we get an actual color wheel for the shop.
That sounds great.
It's going to be cool.
This is going to be great, you guys.
Yep. All right. Thanks. Episode 49 is in the books.
In, tweet us, thumbs up. Episode 50 tomorrow. Well, next week. So
yep.
They don't know that though.
They don't know. They're not even listening by this point. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Tank Abbott. Yeah, that guy was pretty good though, right?
Yeah, he was. He was in it.
Yeah.
He was a scary